Welcome to the Forank Marketing Podcast, where honest conversations, tested tactics, and no-nonsense marketing come together.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Forank Marketing Podcast. My name's Zoe, I'm the SEO specialist and one half of Forank. And as always, I'm joined here with Leigh, Buttrey, co-host of this podcast and the PPC expert. Today's episode, we're covering marketing audits, what they really uncover, why they're not just checkbox exercises, and how to use them to settle the truth behind your campaigns. Before we get into the podcast, we'll do some quick life updates or life and work updates and see what's been going on. So how have you been, Leigh? What's been going on in your life? It's actually, I'd say the last month, because we normally record monthly, but we've had some dramas and this is a late recording and we're not functioning very well today, are we, Leigh?
We're not. Yeah, so we are now currently in November. October has been a whirlwind, I won't lie. It's been stressful to say the least, both personally and professionally. I don't know, just really struggled this month. I think personal stuff just kind of creeps into your professional life, and then it's so difficult trying to balance both aspects sometimes of work-life balance. Yeah, I feel like I'm on the better end of it now, coming out now. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Leigh has had some big life challenges, let's say. So yeah, it's been a lot going on. For me, life generally, I suppose pretty good, other than, so we had one drama, which is actually quite funny at this point. But so my husband and I went to Spain. So we went to Spain. We booked what was going to be like a 3-week break. So not a holiday, because we would obviously work while we were there. So a week holiday and then 2 weeks like workation. And then as that deadline was coming up, for this 3-week holiday, we just thought, 3 weeks is a long time. We're going to cut it back to 2 weeks. So we kind of just paid the change fee, which was like £60 just to fly on a different day. And then, while we were out there, we got what was a stomach virus. So I thought I got food poisoning, so I wasn't worried about him catching it. He then caught it the day before we were meant to fly. So he was really poorly for it was about 36 hours of being really poorly. So I actually had to cancel that flight and then book another flight, which was more closely aligned to the first flight that I booked.
The original.
Yeah, so I've just spent so much money on flights that I haven't taken. Last month or this month. So yeah, a bit of a drama, but on the flip side, how lucky are we to have this type of job, which means I had my laptop, I had some Wi-Fi. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was just a bit of a financial inconvenience, which is not nice, but it would have been awful if I needed to be somewhere or...
Yeah, absolutely. Well, funnily enough, Zoe, talking about work life, I actually celebrated my 4-year anniversary of freelancing yesterday.
Oh my gosh, that's lovely. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually thought it was longer. It feels like it's been longer, but it's only been 4 years. But yeah, I just got to reminiscing of obviously you started freelancing before me, probably about a year maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't actually know, yeah.
You pushed me into it really.
I would have never done it without you though.
I think we were so delusional. We were just yeah, we're just gonna do it. And then it was just that leap of faith, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. We should do a podcast on it.
We should. That should be the next one.
Yeah, it'd be fun as well.
It's funny. I was talking to a woman called Amelia. She's from Koa Marketing, and she is in kind of a similar situation. And she kind of was asking how we both started, and she was like, "It's such an interesting story." So yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, we should. We get DMs about it sometimes. I was going to say something. So on this work updates, I feel like sometimes we just pull out the negatives because it's always proper sticks in your head. But I feel like we're gonna have to do something this month so we can come to the podcast with a story or something something that we've done.
What, me and you have?
Yeah, well we've got a couple of things planned, haven't we? We've got a meal planned with Sheridan and Emma, who are our friends, but also used to be our colleagues in the agency we worked in where we met. And we're going to start board game nights again, aren't we? Because I really enjoyed that last winter.
Yeah, I want to do the that wavelength game.
Yes, I love that. I bought the chameleon game the other day. It should be coming today.
Oh, that is so good. I love that game.
But I bought it for Christmas Day. I always buy a board game for Christmas, and obviously there'll be 8 of us. So
such a good game.
It should be good.
We should do wavelength on the podcast. Get Mark to create little reels for us.
I wonder if we could do it with like marketing stuff. Don't know.
Sure, we can. Good. Oh, yeah, actually, no, work life stuff, work even. I'm having just, I think AI is just, at the moment, it's just overloading my brain, and there's so many updates and things. I think this is why October's been a struggle.
Overloading in a bad way.
Yeah, I think in a bad way, to be honest. I think it's really just shifting the how people use the internet and stuff, and it's making my job very difficult.
Yeah, I kind of feel a bit the same actually.
So,
I've been doing some content edits for HubSpot more for AI, and I don't love it. I don't love it. It's because I'm writing and it's creative and it's lovely and I love the pieces as they are, but we're kind of changing it so they suit an AI machine a bit better. And I don't love it.
yeah.
We could do a podcast on that as well, because I mean we've done an AI one, but it changes so fast. We could, even if it was like a 20-minute little catch up on stuff like that.
Well, it was coming up to a year anniversary since we started this, so that would be a nice full circle, a bit like John Steinbeck.
Sounds good.
Okay, right, let's get into it, shall I? So, according to HubSpot, 61% of marketers say they struggle to identify what's actually working in their campaigns, even when they're tracking everything. Are you surprised?
Not really, to be honest. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. So the
Yeah.
majority of marketers are struggling to identify what's working. I'm not surprised by that for two reasons. First reason is the amount of times we go and look at like someone's tracking and think it's not at all very conclusive. That's common. And then the second thing is, I think you only get so much from it anyway. I think if you're expecting, like if your expectations are too high, you won't, you're not going to meet them. But we'll talk about that more in more detail later, so I won't ramble on about that now. But what about you? Surprised or not surprised?
No, I'm not surprised because I think I fall habit to this, is that there's so many moving parts. You want visibility here, you want visibility there, you want conversions here, conversions there, that you can actually kind of lose sight a little bit of things. And it's kind of trying to understand what is working and what's not, and what's actually just kind of maybe inflated as well, especially with different marketing platforms. So I'm not surprised, to be honest. But yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
All right. So we
Oh,
are,
let's get into the crux of it. Yeah.
yeah, so we're looking at audits today, kind of the purpose and what they should be kind of sharing. Yeah, so straight into it. So what is an audit? So an audit is like a good kind of rip up what you've been doing, what's working, what's not, looking for opportunities, looking at strengths, weaknesses, competitor analysis, and all this kind of stuff. We feel a bit weird about the word audit, don't we? So we obviously sell audits where we go into someone's account, Leigh does the ads, I do the SEO, and we audit what's been happening. The reason why we feel funny with the word audit is because I think sometimes, or often even, they're very like surface level. They maybe just list loads of like problems from like a third party tool, especially in SEO with like SEMrush and Ahrefs that do their own audit. But we feel quite strongly that this isn't, that's not really what an audit is or should be. It should be a lot more detailed. You know, you should come out of it with a list of actionable points that you can go away and do. And also, I think perhaps what the missing layer is sometimes, I think most audits have actions, but actions that are actually useful to the business and prioritised in a way that's going to move the needle in the way the business wants, because that's often a missing layer. Would you add anything else to that, Leigh?
No, I think that's a good point. I think audits for me, I come out there with like a strategy.
Yeah.
It's not just like this isn't working, that's not working. It's kind of it builds the base for your strategy moving forward because you've got so much information. Yeah, I hate the word audit, but it's more like I think we go further as well because we look at like business objectives and things like that within it as well. It's
Yeah.
not just that really surface level stuff. So no, I think you hit the
No,
nail on the
but
head
you
there.
can't do it without that. You have to do that. Otherwise, how are you even doing it?
Yeah, and I think people are so used to kind of having that, the SEMrush audit where it's like you have 25 duplicate meta tags, you have JavaScript issues. I think that's people are so common to thinking that an audit is that, and I mean that is just one very minor part of what our audits look like or what an audit should look like.
Exactly. Like no tool can properly dig in. And do you know what? Talking about AI earlier, probably AI brings a new layer of complexity to this, where
Mm.
people think they can audit their accounts with AI, and like you just can't. Like it cannot. Like you can put like here's a good example. I had someone, a client of mine who's a great client. They put through one of the pages that we've done and asked it to the AI to kind of like audit it in some ways, like tell us some action points. And don't get me wrong, I'm all ears. I'll always read the feedback. And one of the feedback was on like schema. I was like, oh right, okay, it's found something great. I passed it on to Stu, who's like does the technical stuff here and the schema implementation stuff. And he was like, we actually do have that schema in place. Just we've just used a different type of schema. So instead of using just service, we use professional service. And the AI
Right.
doesn't have the nuance. It just knew service wasn't there, but service wasn't there because we'd used the better property, which was professional service, but it can't dig into that nuance. Like it can't find your internal linking problems. Like there's so much it can't do. It can't even like crawl your website. Like Screaming Frog does that or SEMrush does that. It's just, can't do it.
I've not used AI in an audit, to be honest.
No, I haven't either.
I guess it's because it doesn't have that the external factors. It's not going to know that, like, for instance, we've got a client who's wanting to expand in the US, right? If I was to give that data to the AI, it'd be like, well, it's just not working. It's just not working, so turn it all off or whatever. But it's not that it's not working because we're trying to get brand awareness out there for the client.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we're getting that, it will later on trickle down because again they've got such a long sales process that the data from this end won't ever match up to this end because of the sales process, but we know incrementally that the brand awareness stuff we're doing in the US will trickle down eventually.
Yeah,
So it's just stuff like that.
exactly.
It can't pick up that information. So
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. This is a good question in here. So we've talked about like what an audit is to us. So that kind of like deeper dive, get an action point strategy. This is a really good point, I think. So we've got a point. So we always have like a podcast agenda. That's what I'm reading from. That's where the points come from. So why do many businesses, and I'm going to say like maybe even like staff, people, consultants, avoid audits? And yeah, so what do you think? What do you think, Leigh? Why do you think someone might do that? Why would they avoid an audit?
it's interesting actually because I've been on the receiving end of this. So I had a client that I was working with for coming up 2 years, and they had an external agency come and do an audit. And I was a bit like, oh, okay. Is it they don't believe like what's going on? Is there? And I'm not mad about it because I think when I got the audit back, there were some things that I think are up for interpretation, and I think everyone's going to have a bit of difference in opinion. But then on the other part, it came back and actually they came back with some really good suggestions. Some of the things I didn't agree with, and the things were really like nuanced and really arbitrary, and it was just it wouldn't have made a difference to the account. But what ended up happening is they gave the client this kind of like traffic light system. And then the client came back and obviously red was like urgent, must fix. And I went through and the client asked about it because they were like, you've been running this account for 2 years and we've just got back 25 red flags that need to be fixed. Or kind of why were they missed kind of thing. It wasn't until speaking with the client that we went through point by point of which one. They went, oh, actually, that doesn't really make sense because that's not what we agreed in the beginning. Or I was like, well, that's not going to have an impact. Like, but again, it was just this huge list of just like negatives. And I was like, oh my God. But I think people fear it because I think it triggers something in us that we're like, we're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't necessarily think it's businesses that avoid it potentially. I think it's the people who are running the marketing avoid
Totally
it
agree. Totally agree.
because it's very easy to sort of it is very easy, and I've done it to go in and nitpick and just rip someone's work apart. But you have to have that mindset and understand why they maybe have done that decision, perhaps, versus just trying to be like, well, I just do it. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, so I basically agree with everything you said there. And just to add to that point there where you said about like ripping someone's work apart, that's when an audit is really grim, I think, especially when
Mm.
it's come from someone who doesn't I think generally like a document like that where it's just kind of really like negative and kind of like ripping your work apart is come from someone maybe a little less like sophisticated in marketing, because maybe the reason why I'm saying this is because there's usually like a reason for things, and like sometimes you
Mm.
get like a SEMrush audit will be like, oh, you know, you've got this wrong, that wrong, and this is an urgent fix, but actually like it's just like a best practice thing, and like the reason why it hasn't been prioritized is because there's less budget and we're not going to waste time on like a vanity metric. Whereas an audit from one of these tools can like reveal those sort of issues as if they're like the worst thing ever, and they're just not. And the bigger story is the client knows about it, but they don't want to fix it right now because there's like more important things to be getting on with. Totally agree with everything said about fear. I completely agree that it's not actually businesses generally who like fear the audit, it's the staff or the consultant. And the reason behind it is because you are going to get your work looked at, and I absolutely guarantee they're going to find problems because that's how it goes. Like I used to have a creative writing teacher who said like if someone were to like edit Shakespeare, they're going to have a problem with it. Like it doesn't matter how good you are at your job. When you get someone to review something, it's going to get reviewed and a problem's going to be found.
I always remember you saying to me about the hairy arm theory. Is it the hairy
Oh
arm
yeah,
theory?
Kev taught me that. Yeah,
That's
it
like
is. I love that.
which Kev taught you that?
Kev at Clear.
Llewellyn.
Yeah.
It's funny, and it's that we as humans. Oh, Zoe, actually, you explained the theory.
So I've not thought about this for years, but I did love it. So the theory is, I think, that when like years ago, when someone was like drawing like royalty or something like that, they're like creating a portrait of someone, they would add something like a hairy arm. So that when they sent it off for feedback, whoever was reviewing it would be like, oh, the arm's a bit hairy. And so they kind of like set the feedback process up so that the person who's then reviewing it has kind of done their job by saying like the arm's hairy, you remove the arms, everyone feels satisfied. And I think there's really something in that actually in auditing, because if you ask for someone to find a problem and they're being paid to find a
They're
problem, they
gonna
are
find it.
going to find it. And also though, like we all become a bit blind, don't we? Like we miss
We
things, we
do,
get into
yeah.
our work, you drink the company juice, you start to think like the company you're working for, and like a third party auditor coming in to even just put things on the table for you to disregard is really important. I had a situation like you actually where I was getting audited for a client. I was so nervous about it, and I'm super conscientious. Like I work so hard for my clients, obviously, but I was just like, I was just scared of what's going to come out of this audit. And then finally got the audit like yours. It was massive. I was like, oh my goodness, this is like, it was, he'd gone above and beyond. It was absolutely brilliant. He'd gone way above like the parameters of SEO, really got into like even like the social media a little bit, like Crow. He'd really done everything. But when I read through the audit, I was like, most of what he'd said was already on our agenda, and we actually thought about
Yeah.
SEO really similarly, which was lovely. So actually, the whole audit, it was like 10 to 20% of like oopsies. I wish I'd spotted that sooner. And the rest of it was like, I'm so glad he got audited, because what I actually ended up with was like support and agreement that what I was doing was the right thing and where I wanted to take the SEO was the right thing. And I've been on the other side of that as well, where I got paid pretty nice fee to do an audit once, and the SEO team were working really hard. And I was talking to them, and I was like, look, it sounds like you're doing all the right things. And they were like, yeah, I know, but we basically need to pay you to do this, even if it just like confirms, so that we can give it to
Yeah.
stakeholders to get the budget. And I was like, okay, great. So yeah, it just sometimes it's just the way it goes. And I think you're best to embrace it than challenge it, for sure. Try and just leave your pride at the door.
Yeah, it is a difficult one. And I think the word audit, I think if the industry could make a better bloody word.
Yeah, I do agree.
But getting into like kind of audits then, what they can kind of reveal, I think the biggest takeaway for this for me is kind of it's not, don't see it as a negative if you have like a consultant coming in or whatever. They are there literally to be paid. Normally, I think most people will agree. I think that everyone just has a different way of doing marketing as well. But I think you could learn so much from it. So Zoe, so what would you expect to kind of an audit to cover or like to reveal, I guess, from an SEO point of view?
God, so much. So much. And I suppose so It depends on, like, if you're doing like a full blown audit, you'd obviously just go into everything. So like your everything audit, I guess, would look at kind of like the three pillars, which would be like your off page backlinks, on page content, technical health, so your site architecture, your internal linking, yeah, all of those. And then you can also do like a scale down audit. So I've got a project that's come in just now actually for an audit on a site. And it's like, well, it's not really an audit, it's like a power hour. So they want me to go in and like see what I can do in a couple of hours and pull apart the site. So it's something like that, like you really need like the priorities. So for this particular site, they've lost some rankings, they want to know why, they want to sort their conversion tracking out. But yeah, you can do like a scaled down version where it's just like, just look at our content or just look at our technical or even just like maybe backlinks as well. Just depends. But yeah, you can go kind of as wide and as deep as you like with stuff like this. Is there any like must-haves in your opinion, Leigh?
Yeah, I think again, there's the larger picture of like the whole ecosystem of marketing that you can do, and that works very closely with the likes of yourself, with SEO. But again, if it's sometimes people will just come for platform. So if we I'll break it down by platform. So if we're looking at, I guess, Google Ads or search ads, so that includes Microsoft, there could be things that we'd look at like, it would go into ad copy, keywords. Are we wasting budget anywhere? Is the tracking set up correctly? Are we sending people to the right pages for that intent? So those are kind of really, really kind of basic stuff, but you can expand that out to look at like then what that funnel looks like as well. So, and that's then leads into potentially your other platforms like Meta, TikTok, all those other things. So it really does depend. I think if we were to start with, I think when we start with a client, we want to know historically what they've done. One, so we don't do it again if it hasn't worked, but also just making sure that what we're suggesting aligns with the company as well. So when we ever start with a client, it should be like really granular and go into everything, but more so for a historical point of view. And then it can expand out then into, I like to do a bit like competitors research and things within the audits. That's why I think audit is just such the wrong word.
Yeah, like you say audits, me, I just think of like accounts. Is that? I mean, I feel like that's where it's come from, like an audit of like finances.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it? It's not really an audit. I think
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
historical, it's like a, I don't know, like a research piece almost, isn't it? But it has actionable steps from the offset of that.
It is a research piece.
It is a research piece, isn't it? Maybe that's what we'll call it. But I see quite often that tracking is always an issue. I don't know why it is such an issue. I don't I've not been onto an account for a long while that the tracking's absolutely fine.
I'm trying to think of. I think with SEO, it's all nearly. It's never. It's often not there, to be honest. And I think that's why I'm lucky that I work with you because PPC is so trackable that
Mm.
you've taught me in many ways, like that I could also track my work as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we've worked so closely together for so long. So I think with SEO, it's often not there. Like people are tracking like page visits, maybe sales, maybe engagement rates on a page, clicks, impressions, obviously, keywords ranking probably, but they're not really tracking like behavior. They're not really tracking like maybe like anything when it comes to like setting up your own tracking. It's often not there. So like downloads or conversions, maybe like behavior over multiple pages or like cohort analysis, that kind of thing. Not there at all, really. But with yours, so with pay per click, so I would always, because I don't do pay per click, I don't look at the accounts like Leigh does. I would actually expect that the tracking would be there. So what do you find what's missing when you get into an account?
Um, a lot of the time see is incorrect tracking, so duplicate tracking is a big one. And I think this is leads down to the fact that Google has semi-automated tracking already. Conversion, especially e-commerce, I'm seeing a lot at the moment. It's like data, like not having the data layer in there, so you're not having the conversion value come in. You're not understanding which products are kind of selling. That's a huge one. And also, weirdly, page views being tracked as a conversion in Google
So bad.
ads. I mean,
That's
this
naughty.
has happened what I've seen this happen 4 times in the last 2 months. And
Really?
yeah, and I'm starting to wonder, does Google now allow you to pull events? So just a difference. Events mean, just for anyone listening, events are anything that kind of happens as a kind of behavioral point of view that you want to track. Key events are anything that deems business success. So what you're allowed to do in Google Ads now is you can pull in just events. So I'm wondering if that's kind of for someone who's a bit more junior, that's being pulled in automatically. And that just then really messes up your whole like bid strategies in your account. Your data is overinflated. Because for instance, if you had a broad match keyword and you were tracking page views as an event, then you've just told Google that this broad match keyword is the one that's really good and it's driving all this great traffic to your website because it's a conversion. Yeah, page views is a huge one. We saw it with the mutual client we
Yeah.
have, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're like, yeah, you've
We
had
did.
300 conversions this month, and they were like,
I was looking at the analytics in real time, and like we had 4 conversions in like the 1 minute that I was there, and I was just like, okay, something's wrong. And it was page views. So bad.
page views.
But like, if you're seeing it more frequently, it does make sense that there's like Google's putting it in automatically or something, because it's a bit. I mean, that would be a very naughty way to inflate metrics, and I find it hard to think that 4 people would have done that in a short space of time. I hope not.
I'm not sure. I think conversion tracking over the years, I believe, has become easier with Google Tag Manager. But if you don't know Google Tag Manager, it's an absolute minefield. Um, because there's so many different things you can do in there. So I think there is a sense of it should be easier. We've got the ability to be easier without the need for devs to install tracking code and things. But I think there's a bit too much flexibility with Google Tag
Yeah.
Manager that you can just go in
Yes.
and just
Do
track something
anything.
wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true, actually. Should we move on into the importance of turning audit findings into actions? Because I think that is probably a major component of the audit, and one that perhaps didn't say enough. So we've kind of touched on this already. Like, we mentioned how the audit should provide an actionable plan. And then we kind of talked about as well about like the audit plan. Like, anyone can like create a list of actions, and I do feel like this is less common now, to be honest. It's kind of like SEMrush audits being presented as like a proper audit. This kind of like site health being here, and I mean, obviously this matters, but like 404s, broken links, that kind of thing, or like meta tags too long and meta tags too short being pulled as these like urgent issues. If you're working, actually, I say that there are clients who I work with now who are or were working like that until they worked with me. So it does still exist internally, because I suppose if you haven't got the broader knowledge, then that is all you've got, and you're paying like £2 for this tool, so you expect it to be everything, and they're just not. So you always need someone who can take the learnings, if you're using a third party tool, who can take the learnings from that tool and then prioritize them, because even the prioritization within the tools isn't always best. So someone needs to create a priority list based on what's important to do, what's not, and perhaps like importantly, like underpinning all that is where the business wants to go, where marketing wants to go, because there's no point solving problems on pages that aren't even like ranking or something, or aren't important, or maybe even on like a de-index page. You need to prioritize what you want to achieve and then use the audit to identify the actions to help you get there. That's probably the most important thing, isn't it?
I think it's down to the business objectives really, of what the client wants, and then that will make your priority list. If it's a case of they want to push a certain service or whatever, I think that needs to be your first priority, and look at how you can adapt the campaigns or new ones and things like that. That priority list works really well. I literally have a spreadsheet that's like priority 1, 2, 3, and it's just listed out in months of when it's going to happen and when the work gets done.
Okay, so this is a good point then. So it's all well and good saying that someone needs to like prioritize it. They can be pretty overwhelming, can't they? You can do an audit, you can find a ton of actions. I suppose the question is like, how do you then prioritize and get a clear roadmap? I suppose we did just kind of answer that. So start with like something that's actually gonna help you achieve a goal, And then, like you said, prioritize it into like buckets of like high, medium, low, or 1, 2, 3, or month 1, month 2, month 3,
Yeah.
whatever. Is there anything else we would add to that? I don't know.
I think they're overwhelming because especially these audits tend to probably get presented to C-level people who aren't really clued up about marketing, but they just know they want leads or sales. So I think why they're
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming is because they don't understand all the intricacies. So they just see this fucking huge list. And I sometimes think it's better to just actually pull this away and just even put it like technical updates. We'll be doing some of them in this month because they don't need to know all these other things that need to be done because it just looks overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like I would go in, I'm not going to go in and go, oh, I excluded all of these negative keywords this month. They don't need to know that stuff.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, and I do that. Actually, that's kind of like you've kind of like constructed a point that I wouldn't have come up with. But yeah, so normally I have like 2 documents. So one document is the research, essentially, which pulls together all the bits. And then I create a second document, which is like the plan. And I don't really present the research because they don't really need to like know that. It's just waffle, really. And it's just the stuff I needed to do to get to the plan. And then I present the plan, and then I give them both documents. If they want to go and look at the research, are welcome to. And if they wanted me to talk through it, I obviously would. But yeah, there's really no point in giving them all of that, really. You just want to knuckle down. And also, I think the risk, if you're conducting the audit, the risk of presenting everything is like sometimes clients get like fixated on the things that don't really matter. Because like you just said, not everyone you're presenting the audit to has the kind of knowledge, and it's very easy to get stuck on something that's not really that important, but because they know what it is, like I don't know, impressions or clicks or I don't know, ad spend or something they know, they can fixate on it when it's not really the goal. Like the goal might be something different.
But yeah, that leads on to like that transparency, that document of transparency as well. That they have it. I just give them everything, present what you want, and just be like, everything's in here for you. I also appreciate the document for when I am in a rut with a client. You can't see what's it, the tree through the woods.
Yeah.
It's always good to go back to that and just remember where you started, what you've done and what you've achieved. Because I think when you do look back at it, you go, wow, we started from absolutely nothing, or it was terrible, and then made it better. That allows you to just refresh your brain a little bit.
So agree. And I think when you do your audit, you'll start with like priority 1. But sometimes by the time you've like completed priority 1 or you've got so far through you'll like branch off into something else because you'll have new learnings. So like for you, like if you identified
Yeah.
like an ad campaign and that ad campaign worked really well, you might then distract from your audit because you're going to go with the river a little bit now. Things are going really well here. We're going to create
Yeah.
new campaigns. Same for SEO, you can do the same thing. So then you need to go back to the audit and be like, hang on a minute, like what was priority 2 again? Because now it's time to get, it might be like 4 months because things have been going really well. Yeah, I guess there's a point to focus on, like there's like the 80-20 rule, which I think is like a general, I don't know the name of this rule, but I think it's like a general like life rule where it's like 80% of impact comes from like 20% of effort or something.
Yeah.
So focus on the things that are going to drive the biggest changes. Definitely true.
Absolutely. So on here then, so converting audit insights into testable experiments. I think one of the things with PPC is you need to test. It's a lot quicker to do than SEO for obvious reasons. You push your money into it, you can test things a lot quicker. But you can sort of from your audit. I don't really like to discount historical information. Not always my way is the best way, and I'm always humbled by marketing. So it might be that keep, even if it's historical changes, if someone's got an account, actually, we took on a really well established account for a client. I've gone through it and gone, appears to be working for them for how many months. There's no point in me going in there and ripping apart that campaign and doing it differently. So what we do is then we run tests against that campaign to see how we can improve it and take it to the next step. And I think that there. So when you are doing your audit, just keep in mind, like, okay, if this change I'm going to do, should it actually be a test for a true test to understand the impact? Because your way may not have been correct and it might have been the previous way that is correct, or at least better for the client. So that's a really good thing, is when you're doing your audit, just make sure it's I think people are so easy to just like, oh, we'll just start again, we'll start from scratch, but this has worked, so just make sure if you can improve on it, great. If you can't, leave it be. So
So how do you get team buy-in? So you've done your audit, you now need someone to like buy in to your recommendations. How do you do that? Any tips?
If you come in really negative and be like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you're never gonna get that buy-in, because you're just basically just shitting on someone's work.
Completely agree.
So if you're doing this, it's actually going, what you've done with this campaign, just would it make sense to do an experiment and tweak it this way potentially? And what you've then, you open up and then a door, they go, oh, maybe I haven't thought about that, or yeah, actually that was on my list to come and do. And I think you have to reconfirm what they're doing is correct. You're just coming it from you're coming in it with a new set of eyes. You're not coming in there to rip the work apart. So in a case like that, I wouldn't probably present them an audit document. I would take out all of the either key learnings, what's gone well, and what could potentially be improved with some additional insights. So it's not a case of ripping someone's work apart, and it all depends really too as well on what is
Yeah,
presented.
totally agree. So you can kind of approach it with curiosity as well, can't you? Like, oh, how come you set the campaign up like this? And then if you hear why, that would probably make sense to you. And I think also, like when you said, if you go there like looking to like rip their work apart or whatever, you don't know that if you're auditing someone's work, they might have presented your exact findings before, and just haven't managed to get buy-in because for whatever reason, budget, like belief in it, just change. People are a bit resistant to change sometimes. So it's really
Mm.
unfair to assume that whoever's running the account has done anything with any kind of like malice or laziness. It's probably not that, is it?
I think, and also just as advice, if people are in this position where they've been asked to audit or they have an external audit, never send a blind document
No, never.
that doesn't have like reasons behind it, because a comment that I may have put doesn't have the 25 things behind it that I got to that point,
Exactly.
and you can explain it. Yeah, never send a blind document. That is the worst thing you could do.
Yeah, and it'll probably always tie your actions to an endpoint, so like a goal. So why are you saying to do this? Because that's going to get you budget. Like people, like no one who's like releasing budget cares about the tasks. They care about the outcome of the tasks. So yeah, you absolutely want to be assigning things to tangible business outcomes. Okay, so how often do we think we should be running audits? Should they be kind of like regularly, let's say quarterly or annually? What do you think, Leigh?
I think, to be honest, once every quarter, even if it's just a little mini one, just to have a look, make sure tracking is okay. Are we still aligned with the business goals? Has that changed? I think a mini audit is great, especially if you're not really in the account all the time. But I think it's good practice to just go and sort of have a look at tracking and just make sure you're aligned really back to your business goal. But also re-look at your original audit. Are we still on track with that? I think once a quarter probably for PPC.
Yeah, I think you'd kind of naturally do like small ones throughout the year, probably every 3 to 6 months, just kind of like naturally in your like marketing meetings, you'll have that bigger one where you kind of reassess things a bit more deeply. You need to do some research for it,
Mm.
or there's a new campaign or something like that, and then you kind of naturally check in on things that kind of transfer over. But then I do love a big annual deep dive. Absolutely love it. I just love like rip it, like even up my own work and my own accounts, because it just, when I go through the audit process that I've got and have used and repeated for years, I do just like unearth things that just in the day to day you might not look at them.
Mm.
Just things like, yeah, like going back to like site architecture is a good example actually. So like when you've worked on a site for a year, you've added pages, you've created new campaigns, maybe you've created new services or sub services. Then all of a sudden you've got this kind of like messy navigation because everything's just been like thrown in, thrown in, thrown in. And you can kind of like reassess it. And you can't do that as you go because you can't preempt what's gonna
Yeah.
be coming on the site. And all sites do this. Like eventually you have to reorder everything in a way that makes sense because your offerings have grown, things have changed, you've got new audiences. And I just love doing that. Like we've got a client now actually where they're ready for this because we had their website when it had like 3 pages on it, including their privacy policy. And now they've probably got like 12. So we need to tidy it all up again and like give it some structure.
And I think also, just we spoke about this earlier, but with how fast the marketing landscape is changing and does continue to change,
Hmm.
you have to pivot that. So it may be you've got, I don't know, new campaign ideas that come out of it. There's new learnings. We've got the I daren't say issue. I don't know if it is an issue, but we've got new browsers coming out. What does that look like for us? Is it,
AI?
yeah, we need to steer now to more SEO where historically we were doing more PPC, and I've found that with a client that they are moving away from PPC a little bit because they know that they need to get organics up before the AI overviews. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's yeah, I think the best marketers are the ones who are able to pivot and readjust what they originally did, instead of staying stagnant.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Things change. Things change fast now as well, big time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've kind of touched on the tips and takeaways naturally through this. So I'm going to kind of burn through them a little bit. So we're saying we kind of what we kind of have just said is to see these audits as like living documents. So something to go back to, something to refine as you go, to kind of pull things out, even if the audit might be like 4 months old because you've gone off different directions. And also this idea of these kind of like mini regular audits to make sure things are working as they should be.
Yeah.
Absolutely use your audit to refocus your strategy. Don't just tidy up issues, otherwise they're kind of pointless. Leigh, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, so I think always making sure everything's got an actionable step, and if it has provided a return on investment, that's kind of the biggest thing really for PPC, is to understand that it linked up to either success, or even if it hasn't, record it, it's a learning, and move on to the next thing. But again, live and document, use it as a tool. It's not a report card to say if something's good or not.
Okay, so we had a few questions on LinkedIn for auditing. I have a couple that I've not actually put onto this document because I'm a bad person.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, a couple. Let me have a look what I got. I'll just go through them. So someone wants a link when it's live. We'll sort that out. So this is interesting from a commenter on LinkedIn. They say, why does no one do audits manually these days? Everyone just sends automated audit reports generated by the same tool based on the same set of checks. And I think that is true. Why they do it? Because I think I think they get promised everything, especially with like the AI layer now. Like these tools and AI has a sophistication to audit a website. It just doesn't. It simply cannot do certain functions. It cannot even crawl the URLs on your website like Screaming Frog can. It can't spot like internal linking issues. It can't know your business goals. Even if you tell it, it's not going to be able to apply them properly. So it's just not the silver bullet that people think it is. You just do need to roll your sleeves up and get in there and get someone who knows how to analyze data, all the data that you're getting, and like applying it to your business goals for sure. So yeah, I think people do these audits not manually with tools because they think they're gonna achieve the same level of success, but you're just not gonna. Okay, I've got a page on our website and it is called like human website audits, because I just felt like there was going to be an audit of people searching for it, and I've got a feeling that I've got to ask the guy who's approached me for this power hour. He said he found us through ChatGPT. Have I told you this?
No, you haven't. This is new to me.
Sorry, mate. I think it's because I expected you to see season, but of course you wouldn't have been. So he found us, or like our SEO services, through ChatGPT, which I'm thrilled about. So when I have the power hour, I'm going to ask him like what exactly he was searching for. But I've got a feeling it's going to be the human audit, because that's what he's really happy to have found someone who's going to go in and like kind of rip it apart. Exciting. And he lives by my brother as well.
Oh, nice.
Came across you through ChatGPT and liked the tone of our website and LinkedIn reviews.
He liked the tone of our website. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's about to be ripped apart.
Oh no, I can't wait for that. Anyway, we digress here.
Digress. I think it's laziness, to be honest. I think to be honest, you see, I personally think it's not. Well, is it laziness or is it lack of time? Myself and you work very similarly. We spend the first month with a client really getting to grips with their business, really understanding, and learning, looking at historical
Yeah,
data. We spend the first month really as prep for us and
yeah,
implement the
big time.
strategy. And I think this is either down to expectations of the client, and they're wanting something fast, and they want, oh, it hasn't worked for us, so we need something, and they panic. They go into this panic mode. So I think then as a marketer, you kind of just go, oh, we're going to do this, keep them satisfied. Or is it time? Is it laziness? Do people not know what an audit entails? Maybe.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the word audit has been thrown around as like a list of actions for such a long time. Yeah, I feel like people probably don't really know what a good, deep dive, comprehensive audit, I'm using air quotes, actually means. So yeah, I think it could just be a lack of knowing.
Yeah, it's so much more than that. It is a research piece, isn't it? It's a research tool. It's a research and strategy document is what it is that you need to be presenting. It isn't an audit. An audit, yeah, suggests it's got such negative connotations around it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I think this is more of an SEO problem, that automated audit thing, because there's not really such as one for PPC.
No, maybe. This is a good one. What's the first thing you look for in a pay-per-click or SEO audit? So what's the first thing you do?
Oh, I think
It's quite good, isn't it?
I look I look at probably conversion tracking. I think I always talk about tracking. That's probably the first thing I look at, because I know if that's not set up correctly, I'm about to find a shit ton of other issues that aren't done correctly.
Yeah. I think the first thing I do is probably go onto Google Search Console and start building a picture of like what happens on the site now. So like what's ranking well, what's not. Probably would look at things that have dropped or increased in the last 3 months or so. That's probably the first thing, like building a picture of what the site has, I guess. I do always run the site audit quickly on SEMrush or whatever. I always crawl the site early doors with Screaming Frog, and I usually put in the clicks and stuff from Google Search Console. But yeah, just for SEO, like building a bit of a picture of the site now. This could be fun. What's the most surprising thing you've ever uncovered in an audit?
It was probably conversion rate. I remember, who was it? Oh God, I can't remember who it was. I remember going onto their thing and they had like a 600% conversion rate. I was like, whoa, something's going terribly wrong here. And they thought it was really good. And I was like, for your business, I was like, I would not expect you to get more than a 3% conversion rate. They were like, what? I was like, yeah, something is wrong here.
Yeah, definitely.
That means for every one person, they're doing 6 conversions on your website.
Yeah. It's not even possible. That's just a problem, isn't it? You've got to know
It's
how to
such a
read
problem.
data, though, haven't you? The surprising thing you've ever uncovered. I think I spoke about this before, and this wasn't strictly an audit, but I think you were in the meeting as well. I don't know if you can remember. It was years ago. But this is one of my favourite things ever, where someone had created all those pages on their blog to get backlinks, and they were doing like World War II statistics, that kind of thing, like writing articles about World War II, and they were like a B2B client. Can you remember that?
Oh, yes. It was very much like a HubSpot kind of content strategy, wasn't it? They were trying to achieve.
I mean, it was worse than that. I don't even know what that was. I mean, they're crazy. I mean, they had nothing to do with like World War II. It was like, yeah, insane. But still, well, it's just it makes me laugh.
Oh, I think the most recent one actually, Zoe, with our client is the broad match keyword for boarding.
Yeah, my gosh. Ball match keywords, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I think we've probably covered that. So our next episode is going to be about freelancing, our freelance journey, how we got here, and that'll be fun. Like a nice bit of storytelling. Talk about early days, how we met. It'll be cute. So yeah, do subscribe to us on any of your podcast platforms like Apple or Spotify or whatever. Follow us on LinkedIn and let us know what questions you've got about maybe like starting freelancing or anything freelance related, and we would absolutely love to answer those. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Forank Marketing Podcast. We'll be releasing a new episode every month, so don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.